I've been asked to say a few words about how to edit an essay. I've always found editing essays rather exciting, both my own and other people's. I think it's always interesting editing to see what exactly you came up with when you were being creative and writing the thing in the first place. Now, there are two ways, I think, to edit. The first way I discourage and the second way I encourage. The first way is to edit as you go along. A lot of people instinctively do this, and you see them writing and scratching their brains and throwing things away with wild abandon. Not something I recommend, because editing is always brutal, whether you do it as you're going along or later on. And there's a tendency to be destructive and to throw out things which would otherwise be useful. To that end, scribble down all thoughts as you go along, and then use them later. Don't be so precious about assuming that the perfect word is going to slip into your mind when you need it. It probably won't. Collect the perfect sentences when inspiration strikes you, and then use them as and when you need them. Write them down to use later. I wince every time I see somebody tossing paper into the waste paper bin. I always think that there must be some very good things lurking in there for later. So much better to write first and edit later. So I said there were two ways to edit. The first way is to edit as you go along, and the second way is to edit later when you finish writing. I recommend the second way. And leave a bit of time between finishing writing your essay or your paper and starting to edit, so that you can approach the edit with fresh eyes. Another way to do this is to read the paper aloud, or to get somebody else to read it for you. All the clunky bits tend to be exposed when you hear the piece. Check and recheck the content. Your job as an editor is to improve the original writing. So search for the errors, the problems, fix them. You may also find yourself patting yourself on your back occasionally for the singular mot juste. But do try, always, to be critical. Now, there was a Bohemian writer in England, in Bloomsbury, called Lytton Strachey, wrote a book called Eminent Victorians. And his approach to editing was to find the best bit in the original writing and then dump it. He presumably assumed that the best bit was probably self-indulgent. It's not a bad principle, actually. You can always restore it later. Now, the discipline of editing is quite different to writing. First of all, you must be a proofreader. You must have your eye on the grammar and the spelling. Don't rely on Word or on the spell check or grammar check in the various computer systems. These are not foolproof. These are not actually that intelligent. That green line doesn't necessarily mean you are in error. It simply means the computer doesn't like something. So you must always double check. And when you've finished your edit, you need to proofread again. One great way to do this, I found, is to print out your paper. If you've been writing on the computer, print it out. And then, again, a lot of things jump out at you because you're seeing them in a different medium. It's always useful also to make handwritten notes and just simply to jab at the paper with your pen. It keeps you awake during at a time when, frankly, as you're editing, it can be a little bit so destructive and dull. Try always to live in the moment. Try always to make the thing come to life. You are, in fact, doing something useful. I don't think you can ever proofread your own work on a screen. There's always a tendency to come across a familiar sentence and just skip it because maybe you spent 40 minutes trying to get that one right originally. You sort of remember it. So much better to look at the thing when it's printed out on paper. You can even take a ruler and guide your eye down with the ruler so that you try not to miss sentences. By the time you get to that second proofread, by the time you get to the point where you're just checking things after you've edited. You may be purring with satisfaction, and you may be inclined to be very pleased with yourself. Don't congratulate yourself yet. Remember to remain critical. There used to be an activity in schools called précis. It's still a useful activity where you shorten the sentence to the bare essentials. I think as a starting point for your edit, a quick précis of each paragraph is very beneficial. Summarize each paragraph. That way you will see that each paragraph has one purpose and one topic. In American universities, there is a tendency to want to see a topic sentence at the start of each paragraph. In British universities, in Britain generally, we tend not to be quite so regimental, but I still like the idea of the topic sentence. And even though you don't specify what that is, each paragraph will have a single topic. Otherwise it becomes muddy and confused. I know a teacher in a school, a history teacher, who likes to see topic words in each paragraph. And if the student doesn't produce these topic words, then that student gets marked down. I don't think I would be that extreme, but the idea makes perfect sense. A paragraph is a unit that moves logically from the beginning of the essay through to its conclusion. Be careful, therefore, if you cut and paste a whole paragraph or a sentence from the end of your paper and put it at the beginning, because at that point your logical progression is going to be destroyed. So you have to recheck your logic. Keep looking at the content and at the essay question. Another little trick that I am passing on to you is to type out or to write out the essay question on a piece of paper and keep it in front of your computer as you write, and certainly as you edit, so you can keep asking yourself, by referring to that essay question, am I answering the question? Is what I am writing relevant, or am I just going off on one? So, this is the first of 3 talks. This talk is asking the question, why do we edit? I hope I've answered that question. The next talk is going to ask the question, how do we edit? And the final talk is about how we might use citations and how we proofread our text. So for now, thank you for visiting, and this is Tim.